but he's going to ask you if you say 500, then he's going to sell you an expensive car that probably don't even want, or he's going to take advantage of you in terms of loan because these guys get commissions from the lenders whenever they use that lender for a loan. So don't ever answer that question. First, say, let me find out the car that I want first. Then let's figure out what's the cheapest loan you can get to me, give me my credit. If I can afford that, fine. If not, I'll look into another car. And I'm not saying this to be misogynistic. Unfortunately, ladies are taking advantage more. Women do not want to say things to upset stuff. Uh, and B, women are a lot less likely to haggle. The Americans are in general don't haggle much. I mean, a few years ago, we were buying a car for my girlfriend. I told her, I'll deal with the financial part. I was going to help her to pay for it anyway. And I started haggling. We were buying a used car. She felt so embarrassed, she left the room. In Turkey and in general, Middle Eastern countries, haggling is expected. In fact, the first price that they tell you is based on the expectation that you're going to haggle. So that's why they love the American tourists a lot in the Grand Bazaar in Turkey, where they go buy, silk carpets and stuff. They basically tell them a price. They say, sure, why not? And my brother-in-law, or deposed brother-in-law now, because I deposed the wife, and whenever he goes to Turkey and is gonna buy carpets, he goes there with a Turkish person so that they know that he's not an American tourist to be taken advantage of. You typically pay one third, one fourth of whatever they tell an American tourist. All right. But we want to solve even more interesting problems. But let's also ask another question. Suppose I'm 20 years old. I want to retire when I'm 60. I can save $500 a month for 40 years. And let's assume that I can earn 12% a year. If you invest it into risky small caps, you can earn 12% a year after inflation. So how much money will I have when I retire in 40 years? 500. Oh, this is still present value. I'm sorry. If I want the future value, I just check that off. And this still says 49,000. Why? Because I'm still using PV as the function. I should be using FV, right? For now, I'm just going to convert this into FV. Everything else is exactly the same. Turns out, if I can do that, I'm going to have almost $6 million in my account. And let's make this more official. I'm going to copy this, accept the equal sign, put a little if statement here. If my check mark is checked, let's paste it in here. Do the version with PV, otherwise FV. Again, I haven't done anything new. I just told Excel, depending upon the value of that cell, either calculate present value or future value. As you can see, again, this is just me being economical on the screen real estate. And I'm old school. When we learned programming, the first programming language I learned was called Fortran 4, also known as Fortran 66. No, that was Fortran 77. I'm sorry. It was one of the ugliest programming languages that you could ever find. Nothing like the modern ones. But those days, uh, hard disk space and memory was at a premium. The first PC I ever used was in 1985, which is an Olivetti uh, PC. It had a memory of 256K, not megabytes, not gigabytes, K. Okay, and did not have a hard disk. You actually use these floppy disks, 5 1/4 inch. They literally were floppy. You could basically flip them around. Later on, Macs had more sturdy ones. Those things had a capacity of 640K. K, not even megs. If you were wealthy, you could buy a hard external hard disk for 2 MB. So those things were at a premium. You never calculated anything twice unless you had to. And those habits are kind of inbred or imprinted in me. Yes, sure. Remember, anytime something is not clear, you haven't seen it, you should interrupt me and ask me, okay? You're paying my salary. I get paid exactly the same whether you ask questions or not. So it doesn't make any difference to me. And even if you don't learn, I'm tenured. What are they going to do to me? Not give me a raise? They've been doing that for a while now. A while ago, I made a calculation. This is my 20th year at EKU. Uh, since I came here, tuition more than doubled. The undergrad, regular, full-time tuition. The, obviously, inflation has not doubled. So you guys are paying a lot more. But the total raises that I got is probably 35, 36% in that period. And of those, I got raises of 3,000 each twice for promotion. So if you take those out, total raises I got is probably 20%. But, you know, the Republican governors of Kentucky screwed up the A, contribution of state to the EK state schools, and B, they screwed up the pension fund so bad, uh, they had to cut even more. I mean, if about 5, 6 years ago, we had to fire about 20% of the workforce because of the cuts. That included, some of them included tenured professors. Normally, you can't fire a tenured professor absent a cause. Like, you start dating your student, that's a cause. You kill somebody, that's a cause. Or you call the president of the university at 3 o'clock in the morning and show all the French language that's that's a cause. That professor was actually fired the very next day in the middle of the semester. But other than that, you can't be fired. All right. Now, what if I'm earning only 8%? That's a big difference. Of course, the difference between 8 and 12 is important. 8, if you think in terms of inflation adjusted terms, is roughly what you would get if you invest it into, at least historically, what you got if you invest in the large cap stocks. Think of investing in the S&P 500 index funds. You don't even have to have an index fund. We have now things called exchange traded funds. These are mutual funds where the stock actually trades on the market. In a mutual fund, you buy and sell only at the end of the day. So I can buy and sell SPY. In fact, I trade them a lot too. I can trade options on them, whatever. That's the ticker for S&P 500 index fund. You can earn 8%, at least historically. But if you bought small cap stocks, for example, I think, what was that? I think IMV, but don't quote me on that. It makes a big difference. That 4% compounded for 40 years makes a big difference. But it's a lot riskier. When things go to craps, which goes down a lot more, the small caps, of course. I mean, large caps go down too, but they don't go down as much. And think of the COVID days. Which one went down first, Google or your local bank stocks? Of course, your local bank stocks. Now, we're going to ask a different type of questions. And we're going to answer those questions by using only what we have here. Remember, I told you the mathematical principle. Mathematics is about taking a complicated problem and reducing them to things you know how to do. Right now, I taught you only two things as far as these things are concerned. One is how to calculate present value. In this case, you just enter the inputs, make sure that that checkbox is green. And the other one is how to calculate future value. Enter the inputs, make sure that the checkbox is not green. It's that simple. It's a calculator. Okay. I mean, conceptually speaking, on an abstract level, uh, doing this and multiplying 2 with 3 is not any different. In fact, there's a branch of algebra called abstract algebra. This is technically a so-called an algebra. An algebra is a collection of things over which you can do operations. In this case, I have collection of things, the inputs. What are my operations? Present value, future value. That's it. On the other hand, your regular algebra, you have a collection of numbers over which you can multiply, divide, and these things have inverses as well. As you can see, these things have inverses too. So technically speaking, these are complete algebras. And the guy who invented, or who's credited to be with the invention of the concept of abstract algebra, I named my cat after him, one of my cats.